Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host with the biggest tier list of the most, Avery LR32 here, and destroy the ever-living boo-boo stain off that tier list like and subscribe button as we climb even higher the 1,500 ladder. We're getting much closer to 1,600 than ever before, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all are having a fantastic day. So, we are just a few days away from YCS Orlando. I want to do a tier list. I haven't done one since the start of the format with the new ban list. I figured I would do one going into YCS Orlando. And if you're going to be there, be sure to come up and say hi, get a photo together, autograph your t-shirt or your mat, whatever the case may be. I don't know, man. Let's dive on into this. As I always say in these videos, I'm sure I sound like a broken record, but I just like to make it known. I don't know how to make tier list videos. I don't know how to do all the, or not tier list videos. I don't know how to make actual tier lists. So this might be kind of rough because there might be some decks in here that just aren't listed. As I check my phone at the same time. But stuff like Primite, as I can see just right out of the gate, is not here. So like Primite and all that would definitely go in tier 1. We'll talk about that. So, but anyways, we've got tier 1, tier 2 Rogue, and then of course our patented booty butt cheek category. And yeah, of course that is for where all of the dog water decks go, as I try to multitask and text this person who wants to buy cards off me. Sorry, y'all. We're wheeling and dealing at the same time. So, obviously, Red Eyes doesn't represent Primite, but they kind of go hand in hand. So let's talk about this first. So, the Metalmorph Red Eyes deck with the Red Eyes full Metalmorph dragon that's like an Omni Negate, whatever, I think is an interesting pick for Rogue. But that Primite deck that I talked about yesterday, Primite Bysteel Fiendsmith, definitely goes in tier 1. It's just not listed here because, I don't know, the person didn't put a picture here. Regardless, I do think that that deck is tier 1 because of the fact it can play like 20 to 21 hand traps or so, depending on your build. You're either main decking or side decking Dragon's Bind, which is just Vanity's Emptiness 2.0. The card is fucking insane. In regards to Red Eyes, you can play Primite cards in it, sure. The Metalmorph deck itself, I think, belongs in Rogue. But more than anything, with Primite, this is a deck that pro players are playing and that I've been seeing on Dueling Book, and even someone told me in my video from yesterday that this has been on Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega for a month now. So it's a deck that I think you really need to prepare for because it's going to pants you. If you don't have an out to Dragon's Bind, either in your main or side, you're going to get punished. You need to play back row hate for that deck. Now, let's talk about something else that matters. Rizal and Malice. And of course, all the variants that come with that, whether it's Fiendsmith Malice, Fiendsmith Rizal, Fiendsmith Electric Boogaloo, whatever, right? These are the decks that obviously are the best decks in the room. Obviously, pure Rizal is not going to be the best option, I would say, overall, because you do get more flexibility in the extra deck and kind of your main deck, but I feel like it overall just lowers the ceiling of the deck. And it really, if you're going into something like YCS Orlando, especially, hell, even a regional, you want to play some sort of variation of Fiendsmith Rizal, whether it's with a Bysteel package or not, just because of the fact that Fiendsmith Rizal is such a powerful card. And I'll even give you a spicy tech to use. You can use Spell Card Monster Reborn to revive a card and interrupt the opponent's Bysteel. You could revive a monster, summon another body, make full Fiendsmith combo. I messed around with that card for a little bit. It's interesting. It's sort of fallen off in my testing circles, but it was an interesting card to mess around with nonetheless, especially like, again, if you want to revive a level 4, summon out another level 4, make a duo drive or whatever the case may be. Just keep in mind that you can't activate the effects or attack with the monster, whatever monster you revive. So these are pretty self-explanatory. If you've been keeping track of the meta, I don't think I really need to sit here and explain these for 10 fucking minutes. Why the fuck is Dark Magician here? So Dark Magician goes in the booty butt cheek category because it's dog water. Blue Eyes pre-structure deck is absolute booty butt cheeks. Obviously it becomes tier 1 post-structure deck, but this is about YCS Orlando. This isn't the month and a half future from now. Flunder is absolute dog water. Why play Flunder when you can literally play Stun? That is just so much better. So here's the thing, right? No one has commented saying that they wanted it, but why not? I'll ask for it again. My dad got top 8 at locals yesterday, going technically X1 because he had to play me and he lost to me, but he did go 3-2, but he still got top 8 with stun. Being able to win die rolls all day and summon a Fossil Dyna and set some back row is really good because just like with Dragon's Bind and Primite, people aren't preparing for back row heavy-esque decks to a degree, unless you're something like Labyrinth where hand traps can kind of interact with it. But when you're a deck that doesn't really care about Ash Blossom unless it's like a, an extrav that you really need to go off and they ash you. Obviously, Fualos doesn't bother you. Meowsle doesn't bother you. Imperms can kind of hurt you if you can't negate it. Most decks aren't playing droplets for mass negation. Some are, but not a lot. And then, of course, decks aren't main decking back row haste. So you can just set up a Dino with a Moon Mirror and like a Dogmatica Punishment, and you're off to the races. Like, Stun right now is very much a sleeper deck of the format. Totally opposite of Flunder, where it's just dog shit. Like, I run into Flunder players from time to time on EDO Pro when I say testing meta only, and I bust their balls so hard because I'm like, you're obviously trolling because you know your deck is dog shit. Next up is Mermail. I don't know what these cards do, but apparently this shit tops regionals. It's a water deck. People love Mermail. I remember back in Dragon Ruler format? Maybe in Hat format. I remember this guy, an old friend of mine in the community, more of an acquaintance than anything else. But he was like, I remember him saying to me, Avery, Mermail players will play Mermail until their dicks fall off. And that's true, because for whatever reason, people love their water decks. I don't know why, but people love their water decks. Yeah, it's a really cool deck. Again, I'm not going to try and sit here and explain the deck and like just give you fucking word salad out of the yin yang. I don't know what the deck does. I'm not prepping for it because at the end of the day, it's one of those rogue decks that if you're going into a YCS setting, if you start off X2 or something, you're going to see shit like this, most likely. It can pants people and, get 5-6 rounds in a row, undefeated wins. But it's really not something that's on my radar because at the end of the day, decks like Rizal, Malice, Fiendsmith variants in general are just such strong decks that when you set up your board going first, it's really hard for these rogue decks to out those boards, especially in game one when you win the die roll. So it becomes very dice roll heavy. And the one time I played against it, I ended up using Exciton. He negated it, and then I went to Fiendsmith combo, sent back the Exciton, and then I just made the Exciton again with Rizal cards, and I nuked his board, and he rage quit. So I know that they can drop out the Abyss Megalo with the equip spell to negate a spell, but I don't know, man. I'm not seeing it. Let's bounce around a little bit. Branded. So there's one branded player at my locals who makes this deck look like it's just God. It's definitely tier 2. Especially with the hits that it's had on the balance with Branded Fusion at 1 and Gimmick Puppet Nightmare gone. The Albion Sanctifier lock is not as strong or as pertinent, I would say. But at the same time, it's also a deck that if you just forget exists and you're just like, oh, this person's on Branded, I'm going to just lazily ash this or that, whatever, then they play out Branded Fusion, you're crapping all over that venue floor in Orlando. So it's definitely something that if you ash the Branded Fusion, you're probably going to win depending on how they open. But keep in mind that they can play like a lot of the new like White Force and Dia Bellstar support. Like the Branded player, my locals, plays a Dia Bellstar package with Wanted and Hollowed Azamina. So that is an option for Branded if you want to play an engine that can out the Ash Blossom on your Branded Fusion or out the Bell, out the Bysteals, whatever. You play the brick of the Hollowed Azamina. But this is something that you can potentially do. And like if you play a 60 card pile with like Grass or something like in the OCG, you could just like max out on Talents and Thrust. Like this deck's very malleable. Definitely don't be sleeping on Branded. It's a very interesting pick. Exodia. I'm still going to put this in the Rogue category. The problem is it just gets dunked on by Detonator. Like, what are you going to do? Activate like a fucking Millennium Shield, put it in the background, then activates effect, pay 2,000 life points, then Detonator is going to pop it, and then you're probably pissing on the venue floor at that point. So it's cute if you can win the die roll, sure, but save it for the Winamat side event. Vanquish Soul. I guess you could pants people with this. You could play a Fiendsmith package in this, right? Because I don't think the Vanquish Soul cards lock you in anything. So you could play Fiendsmith in it. Sure, I guess. I lost to this at YCS Indy, and I just gave the guy the win after one game because I'm like, look, I didn't say this, but in my head I'm thinking your deck is dog shit. I could grind it out with you with Tempai Kashtira, but Tempai has a bad Vanquish Soul matchup, so no, I gave him the win. I said, I'm going back home. Like, you just good luck. I'm not going to waste my time. Let's see. Snake Eye. God, do I even put this in the tier 2 category? Sure, why not? Let's put Snake Eye and Yubel in tier 2. We'll even put Tempai in tier 2. With the hits to these 3 decks, they are very lackluster right now. Tempai has a terrible Rizal matchup. I mean, I played against Tempai against one of the players at my locals, and it was funny because actually in, what was it, game 2? Yeah, I won game 1. Game 2, I side decked to go first. She made me go first. I opened up Double Judgment and, like, I think an Imperm or something. So I just made Detonator and pass, and she's like, yeah, you played around my hand perfectly, because she had the Ash Blossom. She thought I was going to go Duo Drive. So Detonator is just such a hard card for Tenpai to out, and with the hits it's had on the ban list, you know, you've only got the one Sankin summoning. As soon as you activate it, that either out it with back row hate or the Detonator, and then you're just kind of crapping on the floor at that point. And then Yubel, with the hits to the deck, Phantom of Yubel to 1 is actually a big hit, and Snake Eye having OSS banned, even with the Azamina cards, it's like, you just have such better options to you in the current format that, yes, you can do well with these, but you're going up against not just the ban list, but also the opponent's deck. So it's like, at that point, you may as well play Branded or something Rogue, or just play a tier 1 deck, because you're going to have a higher chance of success. Plus, it doesn't help that a lot of the hand traps that people are playing right now can hurt the 3 previous best decks in Snake Eye, Yubel, and Tenpai. Plus, they've had hits on the ban list, so they're even worse picks. So it's just something to keep in mind. Kashtira, I'm going to put in tier 2. It's a shifter dot deck. It is what it is. As a sub-engine, I think you could put it in tier 1, because I'm sure some people are still going to be on Kashtira Fiendsmith or even Kashtira Rizal, because keep in mind that the Kashtira Rizal extra deck is so tight that if you end up going first and you set up a Unicorn and the opponent hand traps you, you just go Unicorn, banish the Requiem, and then the opponent is just pissing and crapping all over that Orlando venue floor, because now they lost their one Requiem. They pretty much lose their entire Fiendsmith engine, unless they somehow make enough space and concession something else, like a Sky Crisis or an Aggregator in the extra deck and move it to the side, whatever, in order to play a second copy of Requiem, or you just out there one of Duo Drive, or you out a Detonator. Then if they use a monster effect on their turn, use the Unicorn on their turn to then out the second Detonator. So this is a very good sub-engine as a straight deck. I don't think it's all that great, because even Shifter has kind of lost value because Malice is a thing, and Rizal doesn't really care because they just end on Detonator. But it is an option available to you, especially if you're on a budget, or if you just want to play Kashtira Fiendsmith with like 24 fucking hand traps. Go for it, pimp. Like, ain't nobody judging you. Melodious is tier 2. You could play a Rizal package with it. Same thing with Voiceless Voice is tier 2. The Rizal engine and Fiendsmith engine are both very splashable in that regard. You can play them in a lot of different decks. But I feel like that when you're not winning that die roll, a lot of these tier 2 decks have a harder time, depending on how many hand traps too the opponent opens. You can still see success with these decks, but the problem is that buy steals are also a massive thing. So any deck that's hurt by buy steals really falls down in the tier category. But again, what's nice about this tier 2 category is that if you're on a budget, you have a lot of great options too. And that's why this meta is so diverse, and that's why this meta is so great, because it's slower, it's more grind game based, and you have so many budget options available to you. Like, I would argue that Tenpai is even a budget deck now. Even Voiceless and Melodious to a lesser extent, I would think, depending on what tech card you play. So still very good solid options. You need to be careful with these tier 1 strategies, especially if you have a hard time outing a Wave High King, which Wave High King is amazing into Rogue. Ragnariko's booty butt cheeks. Who the hell be playing that? Runic, it'll forever be Rogue, but you die to a Detonator. Like, how the fuck are you outing a Detonator, bro? Tier Element is Rogue. Like, Shifter is a thing in a tier 1 deck, so like, how are you playing the game? And like, Cross really hurts, and Detonator I feel like kind of hurts, and also they can make Dweller, so like, bro, Dweller is a god card. It needs to be banned, like in the OCG. It's insane. Ritual Beast. I'm going to put Ritual Beast in tier 2. It's a shifter deck, very combo heavy, but if you pop your Adderall and drink a monster, and you can learn all the combos, go for it, dude. Just hope to God that your opponent doesn't see evenly matched, because the one time I played against this deck, I evenly matched him, and he started crying, I think. I saw a tear swell up in his eyeballs. Fire Kings, you can still do the Fire King Snake Eye shit. I just don't think it's all that good anymore, man. Like, it's really fallen off. Mimighoul, honestly, man, I'm putting Mimighoul in booty butt cheeks. The problem with this deck inherently is the Dominus cards. Like, yeah, they're not seeing a whole lot of play right now, but the Dominus cards inherently hurt Mimighoul, because then the opponent can't activate the effects of the Mimighouls on their side of the field because they use the Dominus traps. So this deck's just really fallen off. You can play it at local, sure. I mean, that applies for any booty butt cheek deck. It applies for any deck in general, but I'm not seeing it moving into the YCS. Sky Striker, I'm putting in tier 2, but only because of the fact of Malice, because there are Malice Sky Striker lists. If you wanted to play straight Striker, it would go in the Rogue strategy. So keep that in mind, that Malice can play a Striker engine, and they can play things like Shark Cannon, Widow Anchor, and it's really good. Like, Widow Anchor is still a very, very good card in 2025. Memento is Rogue. I'm not prepping for this shit. Like, I played against it at locals. I even told my opponent when he beat me, I said, look, I'm not prepping for this for the YCS. He said, it's fair. You just negate the horse and you move on with your day. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Good to know. I'm not prepping for this shit. Someone may do well with it because you can play Fiendsmith cards, but I think that this deck is just kind of dog shit. But it's a good rogue deck, and this is also how you can pants people, because if someone is like me and they're not considering Memento a threat, you can lose to it because you didn't prep for it. Salad will always go in Rogue because someone's always going to play Salad. It's always going to be against me, and they're always going to beat me with it. I say it in every tier list video. I still think that this deck is dog shit, though. Infernoids, you lose to Shifter and Dweller. I don't know how you're playing the game. Same with Tier. Yeah, no, but this goes in Booty Booty Butt Cheeks because Tier at least has decent fusions. Heroes. So with the new hero support, I feel like this deck still stays in Rogue. Like, how do you out-nib? Like, the hero players always get fucking triggered when I say this, right? Because they're like, oh, well, you out-nib at the end of the main phase because you go DPE, pop itself, and pop something else. I'm like, okay, and I'm playing 15 to 20 hand traps. How do you play the game? Also, Malice has Shifter. Please make a board. Like, I'm sorry if I sound ignorant, but, like, this deck just seems dog shit. Like, I'll put it in Rogue for the hero mains, but if hero mains get mad at me about it, I'm sorry, guys. Like, real talk. Chimera is such a cool deck, but it's... You rip a card out of the opponent's hand. Who cares? They're drawing off mulch armies. Sure, I'll put it in Rogue. Drytron is liquid ass now. Like, sorry, it's really liquid ass. Orcus is dog shit until we get the new support. The shark stuff is cool, but not until we get 7th Tachyon and Maze of the Master in March. I think just in general, it's booty booty butt cheeks. I literally don't know what the fuck this is, so this is liquid ass. This is not a meta card, so I can't even tell you what this is. Sword Soul, even with the new Tenny support, is dog shit. Ice Barriers, why are you playing that deck? Unchained is terrible even with Yubel because the deck is dog shit. Sprite has actually really fallen off, but do we put it in the booty booty butt cheek category? Man, I feel like we do. Like, you're still trying to get to 2 level 2s, but I feel like after 3 years now, I feel like it's just starting to get power creeped. Like, how do you deal with Detonator? Like, you go Gigantic Sprite Effect, they chain the Detonator and pop it. I don't know, man. I think it goes in the booty booty butt cheek category. Goblin Biker is very much Rogue. Anytime that there's a good Exceed deck, Goblin Bikers can actually thrive. Being able to detach materials from the opponent's monster is pretty good. I've only played against it once or twice, and the only reason why I won was because they didn't have an out to Exciton, which is very lazy of me, but like, I may not know what your cards do, but if I can Exciton you, I'm having a good day. Also, this deck actually really struggles with Nibiru, so keep that in mind. White Force is Rogue. It's fine. There's really not much to say. You just kind of hope you win the die roll and hope that the opponent doesn't have a bunch of hand traps, because they actually really struggle with hand traps, even the toy box version. We're actually not putting a lot of stuff in the booty booty butt shit category. Centurion's Rogue. Like, yeah, you don't have King Calamity, but setting up a Cosmic Blazar, and especially with the new support, I don't know much of what it's been doing recently, but still really good. Maybe you could throw in a Rise All package. It's very flexible in that regard. Rescue Ace is really falling off. I got to put that in booty booty butt cheek category. Dragon Link, I'm going to put in Rogue because they can use the new Metalmorph stuff with that Black Metal Dragon and then go into the full Metalmorph Red Eyes or whatever. Yeah, it's a really good Rogue pick. I was going to put it in booty booty butt cheeks, but now I'm like, it's actually not bad. We got to put Pure Lane booty booty butt cheeks. You can play Shifter, but like, Noir has lost its touch, man. The deck plays continuous cards on the field, like Field Spells and Continuous Spells, and Detonator just says no to all of that. Labyrinth, I actually played against a tier element like Labyrinth deck 45, 50 card thing earlier, and it was kind of ass. He lost to Dweller. I gotta put in booty booty butt cheeks, man. I think Labyrinth is not the move. Maybe Rogue if you build it right, but I'm not seeing it for Lab. So, kind of taking a step back, looking at this really reminds me of how good the format is. Like, yeah, you have your obvious dog shit decks like Blue Eyes and Dark Magician, but even then, like, Blue Eyes is going to be tier 1 once we get that structure deck in February in like a few weeks. I was thinking it was like a month. It's more like 2.5 weeks or so. So, like, after the structure deck, you see Blue Eyes jump up to tier 1. And then that's just another deck that's actually kind of budget because you can kind of build it with just 3 structure decks, even though it's better to have mulch armies, but that goes for any deck in the game. So like having a kind of a budget tier 1 deck, depending on how you build it, is really nice. This format's diverse. Like, I've been seeing people complain online about the format. It's pretty good. Like, you're always going to have booty butt cheek decks in the format. Like, of course, Flunder, Ragnarok, Ice Barrier, Swords, all that shit's garbage. But, like, everybody knows that at this point, unless, like, you've just been living under a rock. So, yeah, this is a good format. You have a lot of choices. It's always nice to see things on paper and be like, oh, there's not just only 2 decks that you can play. You actually have a lot of choices. And it's just about understanding your matchups and playtesting and building your deck correctly where you can beat shit like Fiendsmith Malice and Rizal and all the other stuff. So yeah, really good format moving into this YCS. Just be sure that your booty buttholes are prepared for Primite because you get hit with a Dragon's Bind and you're going to be like me crapping all over the floor if you don't have an out. Guys, let me know what you think about this format. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next video.